Has there any requests?
Can I play your guitar?
Through Wonderwall. I'm a good singer. Can I sing with you?
Oh, give us another. Come on, mate. One more song.
One more song. One more song. One more song. One more song. One more song. One more song. One more song. One more song. One more song. One more song. One more song. One more song. One more song. One more song. One more song. One more song.
Right, hello, welcome to the One More Songcast. My name's Luke.
And I'm Lee.
Right, we've got our third guest on the podcast, first female on the podcast as well. It's a record. We have Manchester-based Shelli Le Fay, who is a singer-songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, fiddle player, songwriter. We've said that, haven't we? You're in a band called Matt Heartless and the Maverick 7.
Yes, correct.
Is there anything else you'd like to add to the introduction?
I don't know. Who's ringing?
Oh, it's probably the bell downstairs, to be fair.
I thought it was me for a minute. Oh, God, I'm so sorry. I think that's everything.
Yeah?
I think.
Busker as well.
Oh, yeah,
I want to talk about your busking. Oh, recently, okay.
I've literally just started busking like this last week.
Okay,
my
right.
mate has lent me his amp, and it's great, and I'm hooked.
Right.
Was it one of those rolling street cubes or something like that?
They usually are, right?
Well, it doesn't roll. Oh, rolling, sorry, I thought it was rolling. And I was like, oh, if it had wheels, that would be great.
Just downhill busking.
Sorry.
No, I wasn't expecting any like extreme sports with busking.
Definitely make a lot of money. That's a great idea.
Right, so we always open our podcast, and it's a very broad question, but it's kind of broad for a reason. What does music mean to you, or the word music mean to you?
I mean, everything.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like everything from just like the most fun thing I've ever done with my life to like the ultimate like coping strategy for like hard times, and just everything in between.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Do you mean more like a definition of what
No,
music is?
literally just when you think of music, but you've put it quite well there. It's your happiest times, and it's also your darkest times as well, I suppose.
Yeah,
so it's just, it covers every aspect of your life.
Yeah.
So we want to spend this first part talking about like your early experiences with music. So we're going right back to the start. What were the first things musically you were exposed to? Influences maybe from your parents or friends or whatever it was that got you maybe thinking that that's something you want to do, or it might not even be something at the start that you thought you wanted to do, but it was just them instant influences or instant sounds.
Okay, so it's a bit of a weird one really, because my family just isn't musical at all, and there really wasn't ever like music just on in my house. There was kind of occasionally, like they'd put like, you know, classic FM on or whatever. And like I remember like going on like long car journeys and having like classic FM or some movie soundtrack or something on, and I would just sit and like look out the window and just kind of create like little I don't know, usually like animal based kind of images in my head of like, because that was like my first kind of obsession was animals, I suppose, and then music came after. So yeah, I would always kind of have a little bit of like a kind of visual kind of relationship to it, I suppose. But yeah, I don't know where it comes from. I really don't, because like my family like have kind of dabbled a tiny bit. I remember my brother having like keyboard lessons at school, but it doesn't mean anything the same amount to anyone else in my family as it does to me. And as soon as I remember getting really into pop music just because of like my friends in school being like, you know, talking about this stuff that I didn't understand, and so I kind of was like, I need to start watching like Top of the Pops or whatever, so I have, you know, I can get involved in these conversations. And from then I was just like, I can't think about anything else, and I got obsessed with like pop groups. And then I think like the most kind of pivotal moment for me was seeing Hole on Top of the Pops. Okay. And, you know, like I'd seen a couple of women play guitar, there weren't many. I'm trying to think of any names, but there was a couple. But yeah, seeing like Courtney Love just like rocking out on Top of the Pops, just like, it was just like this kind of light went up in my head, and I was just like, oh, we can do that too. And from then I just like, kind of yeah, got like a really cheap guitar for Christmas and just kind of started learning to play. And like I didn't get into, because violin's like my main instrument.
I was gonna, yeah.
But I just, yeah, I don't know. I think it was just the fact that I had a friend who was selling his when I was about 17 years old, and I was just like, yeah, actually, I'll buy that off you, because it was like really cheap. And I just immediately found that so much easier than guitar, because I've got very tiny hands. So guitar's always just been a little bit of a pain. And
you didn't have a dreadnought then for your first guitar? One of those big
is that like
jumbo
a big
guitars,
Okay.
That's what I wear, and I'm tiny and I struggle to get my hands up.
Yeah. No, I've got like my guitars, like my electric one, which I've now given to Matt, who's the singer and guitarist in my band, and my acoustic one. They're both like Daisy Rocks, so they're like made specifically for tiny female hands.
Right.
Yeah, so they've got like a thin neck and they're like a lot lighter and stuff like that. So, but yeah, that kind of really put me off guitar. Like I started learning when I was like 12 or something, and then I was just really put off by the fact that I struggled with it so much, like physically. And it was only when I discovered these like kind of female-centric guitars, basically, that I was just like, oh, I can do this a little bit better than I thought. But violin's always been a lot easier, as strange as that sounds.
Yeah,
it's a hard instrument.
Yeah. Did you go from obviously struggling with the acoustic guitar or electric guitar? How did you then go from that to being interested in fiddle and violin?
Well,
is that the same thing, by the way?
It is the same thing. I get this question a lot, and like, the two are just completely interchangeable, but people tend to use fiddle for folk and violin for classical, but like also people do both.
Yeah.
You know, so it doesn't matter, basically. My mum was like in this Morris dancing group.
Right, okay, yeah.
So we're always kind of like vaguely, and she's Irish as well. So we've kind of always had a little bit of like folkiness kind of going on in the background in our lives. She was in this Morris dancing group, and I used to like go along, and they would do like at the folk festivals, they'd do a dance, and then afterwards there would be like a session or like a sing around where everyone just, you know, takes it in turns to stand up and sing the song. So that kind of got me interested in folk music. And so, from then I don't know, the violin's just very, very like captivating, isn't
absolutely,
it? Like, I mean, I think everybody would agree with that. So when I heard it, I was just like, I wonder if I could do that. And turns out after quite a long time I could, but it took a long time to get there, because it's,
Always does. It's always hard work learning an instrument, isn't it? So what sort of things were you playing in those early days on the guitar and then on the violin? Was it just sort of folk you stuck to on the violin, or was it classical pieces? Was it what was it you were sort of learning in those early days?
So I don't think I had a music lesson until I was like maybe like 19 years old. I was always, because, you know, like my family not being very musical, it never kind of occurred to them to be like, what do you want, some music lessons? It just wasn't, you know, something that I guess they thought was important or whatever. I mean, fair enough. So I would just like get like guitar tabs off of the internet and just try and learn stuff. But I had like no understanding of music theory at all. So I think I just, you know, I was writing these songs and just everything would just, I don't think I've got anything written down from those days, unfortunately. I've got some stuff from about like 10 years ago, and I look at the chords and I'm just like, this is mental, because I didn't know like, you know, about chord progressions and stuff like that then.
So you were creating sort of unique chord progressions because you didn't have the understanding of it. Yeah, that's quite cool though, isn't it?
Sometimes that naivety is like the best thing about music, because it just works. And I think a lot of the people in the pop music industry now, like Richard Ashcroft, do you think he's really sat there with a music theory book and studied it? No, he's probably just played his guitar, played a few chords and saw what worked and left it at that. And like, that sounds good, I'll keep it at that. Yeah. That naivety is so important. So obviously experimenting through those days, obviously you've said you look back at it since and thought, what the hell am I doing here? But is there any of those ideas that maybe have stuck or come into your songwriting or anything nowadays?
Have they? I don't know, you know, because like I definitely still play some songs that I wrote a long time ago, like 10 years ago plus. But like I said, having looked at them, I've just been like, well, this needs a little bit of tweaking, because that's very discordant. But I had a friend say to me years ago that I have like a gift for melody. which was really like, I don't know, encouraging, I suppose. And I think that maybe just like having a little bit of like, I don't know how innate it is with I don't know how innate anything is really, but like in terms of like pitch, like perfect pitch or relative pitch or whatever, because my pitch is good. I don't think it's quite perfect, but I've always been able to like hear like when something sounds really, really wrong, I suppose. But yeah, in terms of like, have things stuck with me since then? I don't know. I've probably not really. That's a really boring answer, isn't it? But the thing is that I feel like as soon as I started understanding music theory, it was just like everything kind of fell into place. And it felt really like liberating. Yeah. Because I didn't feel like nervous about playing things in front of people and being like, oh God, is this wrong? Are they going to judge me for like not knowing what I'm doing? Because like, there's the kind of extra thing of being female as well. Like where I grew up, there was like no women in the band. There was like two actually. One was a singer and one was another violinist in a folk band. Everyone else was blokes. And it took me like years to like get anyone to like want me to be involved in there.
Where were you originally from then?
Kent.
Right, okay, yeah.
But yeah, my accent's a bit like all over the place because I've lived in the north for so long. So it was just kind of like little kind of backwater town, and it was just sort of really like male dominated music scene.
So staying on that then, do you remember so obviously you've gone from dabbling in guitar, obviously then being inspired to play fiddle as well. Do you then remember then pushing on and saying, right, well, I'm going to do my first gig? And do you remember that experience of your first gig, and did it go well or bad, and how did that shape you going forward?
It was fine. But yeah, my first ever gig was a solo one. Right. It's like, just because I didn't have anyone to start a band with. And I think part of that, can I swear, by the way?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, good, because I've been watching that and I'm like, great, okay. I really struggled to find anyone to start a band with, and like I know that, like, you know, looking at the kind of demographic of the scene, it was like probably a lot of that was sexism, but also, you know, I was a difficult person back then, probably still am a bit, so I can, you know, looking back and be like, okay, I understand why people might not want to spend that much time with me. But so I started when I discovered Frank Turner. Okay, I was like, oh, I could do that. I could do that on my own. Like all these songs that I've written with a band in mind, because I was doing stuff like Bad Religion and like No Effects and that kind of thing. Yeah. So I'd always envisaged doing something like that. And then when I discovered Frank Turner, I was like, oh, I could like take all these songs and kind of just make them acoustic. And it's not really folk, is it? But you know, like modern folk.
No, I get you, yeah.
It's kind of like acoustic punk. I always describe Frank Turner as.
It's
kind of like that merge between the Clash and then some sort of folk song.
Yeah, actually, the Clash and Billy Bragg.
Billy Bragg, I'd say. Yeah, that's good.
That was my first ever gig, and I had a boyfriend at the time who was you know, amazing musician, and was like, I've gone out with so many musicians, and in the past it was just because like I think I was like living vicariously through them, because I didn't have like no one was playing a band with me, and so I'd just go to all their shows and just everyone thought I was just kind of really, you know, obsessed with the guy or like a massive groupie or whatever, and I was like, no, I just want to be doing that. But
you wanted to mingle with those people.
Yeah, totally.
Almost find a way in.
Exactly. But he was like doing a bit of promoting as well, and so he was like, you know, I'm putting this gig on at this place. Would you like to just like open and do like 5 acoustic songs? And I was like, okay. Which was so scary, and it was probably rubbish.
And these were all your own songs as well that you opened with?
I think I may have done like a cover.
Yeah.
But yeah, mostly. I had a lot of stuff written at
That's
that
a
point.
positive start though, because if you're then putting your own stuff out there, that makes you more vulnerable for your first gig, doesn't it? If people don't respond to it very well, then it's like, oh God, it's my own stuff, you know? Whereas if you're doing a cover, it's like, well, you know, I didn't
write it, it's not my fault, it's a shit song.
So it was probably a tough start, that really. So did it go the way you planned? Then did it push you on?
It did. Yeah. But like, back in those days, I had like such bad stage fright, so I didn't really enjoy it. I think I did the solo thing for like a year maybe, and then I got to the point where I was just like, I think I had one really bad gig and it just really like put me off. And at that point I was playing a lot of violin, and so I just ended up doing that after for a while until like last year really. So I kind of put the solo stuff aside for quite a long time, like 10 years or something.
Right, okay.
And then just came back to it last year, and I've got so much experience being on stage as a violinist and like a backing singer and stuff. So obviously slightly different, but I'm just so comfortable being on stage now that doing it on my own and having all the attention instead of having to share it, it's just ideal.
So you don't have a problem with that now? You kind of those experiences have set you up, and
I think that's a weird thing, isn't it? Because I had a completely different set. I was fine getting up. I'd have a few nerves until the end of the first couple of songs, and I'm like, right, okay, I've got them out of the way, I'm good now. But I almost hated acoustic gigs, solo acoustic gigs, because I could have had the best gig in the world, and I turn around and there's no one there to celebrate with. That was how I saw it. Yeah, and I think mainly because 17, 18, I was lobbing beers down my throat. I wanted to party after a gig, and almost like if none of my mates came to the gig, that was it. I couldn't do it. So I think that was that sort of thing. I think although you do get less money with a band, it's that togetherness, that bit you've worked hard on. That's the feeling, isn't it?
It's I mean, like my band Heartless and the Maverick 7, it's honestly like the best thing I've ever done. And we're on a little bit of like a kind of not a break, but like just our bass player has RSI, so we've just had to kind of cancel some stuff, which is just like, it's so sad, because gigging with those guys is just when everything kind of clicks, and you've got the audience dancing and like everyone's just smashing it. It's just, there's no better feeling.
Not at all.
100%.
Yeah. So is that kind of having that little group, that little gang to like share everything with. It's amazing. And I've been thinking about that recently, of just like, solo stuff is going well, it's going in a good direction, but at some point I'm going to need to get a band together so I can have that as well, so I can have the best of both worlds.
Absolutely. So I know I was doing a bit of research on yesterday. I know you went to art school as well, didn't you, or studied art at university?
I did, yeah.
So did that then bring you to Manchester studying? Did you study in Manchester, did you?
No. I actually, I went to art school in Canterbury in Kent, so I wasn't too far from where I was from, but I met a Scouse boy at uni, and then I moved up to Liverpool, lived with him after uni, and then I ended up coming over here.
Nice.
Just a little tour of the Northwest, basically.
I was going to say, how did studying art intertwine with being creative as a musician as well? Did they go hand in hand or not at all?
I think they do. Like I know a lot of people who do both, and I do the artwork for I've got 2 releases, so I've done both of those. I was going to say for all my releases. I've done the artwork for both of those, which I don't know, some of that was just like a bit of a point of pride of just like, I want to do everything myself. Like on my first EP, I like played all the instruments, and I also wanted to do the artwork, and just kind of, I didn't produce it. That's the one thing I couldn't do, because I have no idea.
You didn't produce the music?
No, I don't know how.
No.
I don't know how that's just sorcery.
It's tough. It's so tough,
Yeah.
You can do it up to a certain point, can't you? But then it's tough.
I think I had trouble with that. You're looking at the price of recording for a solo artist some places, and you're like, right, okay, I'll do this myself. And then you're there for 2 weeks tearing your hair out, and then you take off all the effects, start again, and then go, right, so all I needed to do was tweak that little bit there. It's fine. I think that is the thing. You've just got to dive into it. If you don't just dive into it and fail at it a couple of times, then you'll never get going. But I do think there is a difference. After trying my first studio recording last year, there is a hell of a difference in what you can do from home to what you can do in a studio. It's just, it's hard. It is hard.
Because the thing is, like, you can write the best song in the world, and if you record it really badly, no one's going to play it on the radio or anything.
Absolutely not.
No.
Yeah, and also, like, one of my kind of thoughts on it is that, like, anytime I sit down with anything technical, I mean, I can just about handle the busking amp. Just about. But yeah, if I try and sit down with anything technical, I just get this kind of like ennui, just like flood over me, and I'm just like, I don't want to do this. What I want to be doing is practicing my violin or singing or something. You know, it just hits me with this like absolute grinding tedium. It's just not for me, basically.
It's hard work, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not a digital person.
Hey, you should try getting into podcasts. That's
Oh God, no.
that's another entity, isn't it?
The podcast has nearly ended about 4 times, to be honest. Over one little bit of compression.
Is that true? I bet
we
it
were
is.
bickering about compression the other week, weren't we?
Even my missus said, "Can you stop saying the word compression?"
Was there a moment where there was a pause and you looked at each other and went, what have we become?
Yeah.
In the end, we just went, right, let's just put the episode back a week because we need a break here.
Oh God. See, this is exactly the issue. I don't want that in my life. I don't want that energy.
I think we've kind of settled the differences, moved on, and we did a bit of research.
We had a fight, didn't we, in the car park, and then bare knuckle, and then we were
bare knuckle round the back of an Iceland, and all sorted.
Right, so just quickly before we end this part of your early life and your early experiences in music, before we talk about your songwriting techniques and going into some of your songs as well. So you obviously sent some of your tunes to us to play, and we're going to play at the end of this episode today, especially the False Spring. I like that tune. It's a great tune, that. I've listened to that all over the weekend. I've been singing it over my head, listening to it.
Thank you so much.
No, it's a good tune, but I wanted to ask you what your maybe more vocal influences are. I hear a bit of Kirsty MacColl in your voice, but I don't know if that's maybe a generic thing to say, or whether there's probably wider influences that we haven't even thought about, but... Obviously, you're saying about Irish and folk. I want to talk about faerie folk as well, but that might be a little bit more for the next part. But just more your influences, really, for your songwriting.
Okay. What do you want? Vocal influences or songwriting influences?
We could start with that, I reckon, yeah. So, like I said, with a bit of Kirsty MacColl, I even heard a bit of Jackie Abbott, but then I listened to Jackie Abbott again the other week and was like, oh no, actually, probably not. So
I don't know if it was you or someone else that said that to me a little while ago, but I didn't necessarily hear it myself, but I was like, cool, thanks. Vocal influences. I mean, I'm a big fan of like, like Dolores O'Riordan of the Cranberries. She's got the most incredible voice. It's just very like kind of, I don't know, there's some very like almost like primal elements to her voice. I mean, not primal, but like there's, I don't know, tribally kind of like...
I get what you mean.
Yeah, these kind of... just all the little like grace notes and stuff she puts in. And she's like a little bit of like a... I don't know, it's not yodeling,
it's very,
is it? But it's something.
Almost like traditional. So
traditional.
I think
exactly.
Because that's what would happen in traditional Irish folk. They normally put these little trills in and stuff like that just wouldn't happen in pop music nowadays.
Totally, yeah. So that's definitely a big... something I aspire to, but like, God knows if I'll ever get there, because she's just had the most amazing voice. Who else? I don't know. Probably, I'm like a... Well, yeah, my biggest kind of influences for like music, I grew up with Manic Street Preachers. And Muse as well, like a really big one for me. Obviously both those guys are like incredible singers.
Yeah, definitely.
And I kind of like grew up, singing along to men. So like I discovered like the other half of my range like a bit later, because I'd kind of opened that up. I don't know how it works with the vocal cords, but I've got a pretty like soprano kind of range, and I wasn't really using it until I started doing like my own stuff, and then I was just like, we were recording. So on my EP, there's a song called Riff, which is like.
And that's very primal. I listened to that. That's quite primal, isn't it?
That was the intention, because it's supposed to be a really sad song, and it's supposed to be like just putting all of my like misery into it with the vocals. That was the kind of
it's cool, yeah.
That was the vibe. But for that, I was recording like some backing vocals, and as a joke, I kind of did this ridiculously high note, and luckily Matt, my friend who was producing me, like kept it in, and he was like, that was a D6, man. And I was just like, I didn't know I could do that. So I don't know, a lot of it's kind of come naturally, but there's definitely people that I want to be like Dolores O'Riordan.
100%. And what about your fiddle influences or violin influences? Is there people that I know you said obviously you were into your Morrissey dancing and stuff. Is there any artist?
Morrissey dancing, what? The guy out of the Smiths?
Yeah,
Morris dancing.
There we go. Clip that up.
I hope that's a thing.
Morrissey dancing.
Leave that in.
I'm just imagining it now.
Take me out.
Morrissey dancing, great stuff. Morris dancing.
Pointless comment of the week.
Yeah, just with hankies and bells. But anyway, answer your question. Do you know Lindsay Sterling?
I don't, but I'm sure listeners will.
She's fucking incredible. She was, I think her kind of break was America's Got Talent. She's a really good violinist, and she also dances. She'll do like full on like incredible like choreographed dances with like a troupe while playing, which is like that's too much talent for one human. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, she's I would recommend listening to like some of her stuff. It's very like how do I describe it? I mean, it's kind of a lot of it's like dance music, you know, it's like electronic beats and stuff on it, and then she'll just play beautiful like you know, like fiddle riffs on it. So yeah, that's another person I would love to be like. Oh, Emily Autumn as well. She's another like, I don't know if you guys know her.
I've heard the name, but I can't remember what she was on to hear the name.
She's like a gothy kind of person. She does like like synthy, gothy kind of music, but she's a classically trained violinist, and she'll do these like amazing stage shows where it's like a little bit of like a kind of cabaret kind of thing, but then at one point she'll just like whip out her electric violin and play like an amazing like Bach concerto. And so yeah, like those two. I mean, there aren't many violinists in like, you know, contemporary music, but those are the...
Absolutely.
Sorry, do you need to go to a break?
Not at all, I don't think so.
Cool.
Was I looking no, I was just thinking of more
Okay,
more
cool.
Yeah.
I was just checking.
We've got 3 minutes, so...
Okay, amazing.
No, I reckon we call it there. Have a quick break. We'll put a daft advert in, and we'll see you shortly for the songwriting part of the episode, so yeah. Ooh.
And some Morrissey dancing.
Morrissey dancing,
yeah. Hi, how you doing? It's me, the daddy. Just wanted to take a moment out of the episode to promote a certain somebody today, a certain Stephanie Collette that has been helping us out, getting us started with filming, with lighting, with a little bit of photography as well. So big shout out to Stephanie. You can find her in Chorley at her studio. It's above the Blue Light Cafe, I believe it is. She does web design, photography, she does filming as well. She does all sorts of things in that sector. And we'd really like to promote her. So her details are going to be in the link in the description below. So you can check her out if you want anything that's music related or even just family shoots she can do as well for you. So a whole range of things, and she's really good. We can vouch for that as well. So go check her out. Back to the episode. I'll see you later. Right, okay. Right, welcome back to the One More Songcast. We're into part 2, we're into your songwriting, Shelli. So obviously a massive part of your life and what you do. So I wanted to talk at the start, before we go into songwriting, about what your gigging situation is like. So obviously you're in a band, you're solo as well. What's the general music scene like around Manchester? Are you mainly just doing original gigs, or do you do some cover gigs to cover the bills to then supplement your original writing? How does it work for you in Manchester?
I should do that.
Yeah.
That's really smart, but no. I just do like original gigs, but I do throw covers in.
Yeah.
Just because, like, it's nice for people to hear something they know.
Yeah,
It like kind of makes them like pay a bit more attention to the rest of your original stuff, I guess. The gigging situation is, I don't know, like the music scene in Manchester is like amazing. And it's a lot more like diverse than anywhere else I've lived in, like Kent and London and Liverpool. And this is like the first place where I've been where there's like actually quite a lot of women in the bands. Yeah. I can't speak about like, you know, other elements of like diversity and stuff like racism and sort of races, stuff like that. But yeah, with, you know, the fact that there's actually a lot more women doing it here is like really nice, because it's rare, unfortunately. But so I do busking, I do gigs with my band, I do like solo stuff, but mostly it's original stuff, just because I I don't know. The thing with like doing covers, and I know you guys do.
No,
this, right?
it's hard work though. There's definitely some downsides.
Yeah,
to it, 100%.
Yeah, and it's like that's not really what I want to be doing.
No.
I want to be making new stuff.
Yeah.
And I do have a little bit of a bugbear at tribute bands because it's like, it's fine. I understand why people would want them at like their wedding or something like that, but it's just like, can't we make room for like new stuff? Do we have to keep rehashing the old?
No, that's a good point. You're in an ABBA tribute band, aren't you? So.
Are you?
It's not really.
No. Definitely not.
So excited. It's ready to eat my words.
Stop crushing people's dreams.
No, it's fair enough. It's an interesting concept, isn't it? Because obviously, I don't really go into Manchester that much, but when you go to like Matthew Street in Liverpool and you've got all the Beatles covers and everything else, like it is a completely different market, isn't it? You know, and I've always found the concept strange. I mean, I'm getting into writing, but it's not really been a big thing for me. But I didn't know until fairly recently that you don't really get paid for doing original gigs, or not often. And it's a strange concept, isn't it? Because there's a lot more effort that goes into writing your own music. But
awful. It's backwards. It's completely.
But it just seems to be the way it is, and there's no manoeuvre in that, is there? What are your feelings? Well, obviously I know what your feelings are going to be, but can you talk a little bit about like the reasons why that might be? And
I wish I knew.
Yeah.
I was going to apply for this festival a little while ago, and like, you know, it's like a faerie folky kind of festival, so I was like, well, I'll fit right in. And I looked at the bands they had on in the past, and all the headliners were like tribute acts. And I was like, oh, fuck off. I don't want anything to do with you idiots. It's just I don't know why that would be.
No.
I think it's so depressing. I just really feel like, is it an attention span thing maybe? Do people just not have the attention to
when people are out on a Friday, Saturday night, they just want to hear the generic tunes because they've had a few pints, and they aren't, I don't know, people probably aren't as open as what they used to be. We had a guy called Leon, didn't we, who played he went down to London quite a bit in like the 90s and stuff, and he said people are a lot more open to original music than what they are now, he says.
God.
So it is sad, isn't it, really? But
I think
Awful.
For me, it almost seems like that. Don't get me wrong, there's some good promoters who are out there because they love original music and they're actually out there helping original musicians. They're fair with a ticket split and everything like that. But then you get others that almost everything they do, it feels like they think they're doing you a favour.
Oh, yeah.
It's just sort of like, hang on a minute, you promoted this show 3 days before. Your job title is promoter.
Yeah.
Like, it's like well, it's your fans, you need to get them to a show. Well, hang on a minute, you're meant to be providing a platform for us to perform to different people.
I don't know, man. It feels like there's definitely an element of like, people think that the arts are like self-indulgent, and they are to an extent, but also if you think about like, and I don't think of it as real work, but if you think about like all the times, like if I think about all the times that something has got me through like a terrible time, like last year I was really depressed about like, you know, thing not working out with a guy, and I just listened to Muse just obsessively for like 6 months or something, and that was just my happy place. You know what I mean? Before that I was like obsessed with like Game of Thrones and like the book series and stuff. That got me through some rough times. Manic Street Preachers got me through like difficult teenage years. You know, like that's what the arts is. It's like science is what makes like modern life possible, but the arts is what makes it worth living. You know, that's the thing that we go to when times are hard. And you know, I think that was really like exemplified in like the pandemic. Everyone was just like Netflix and, you know, whatever else. Everyone was just kind of trying to get into something they could escape into, because you need that, you know. And people don't seem to it's like everyone wants art, but no one wants to pay for it. That's the kind of dichotomy that we live in, and it's such a shame. It's like, why? It's a shame it's not seen as valued as it is. But I think people just will kind of write you off as like a bit of an attention seeker and things like that. Do you know what I mean?
No, it's even trickier when you live in a small town like this as well, because there's only I mean, obviously we can travel to Manchester and Liverpool if we really want to, but like there's only one original music venue in Preston, and that's had its difficulties, hasn't it?
There's one.
There's 2 or 3 really. So you've got Reva's Show Bar, but they do a lot of tribute acts, and it's not as well known. The Ferret's the main one. So like in the last year they've had the Buzzcocks on. Ed Sheeran just a year before he got big, headline there. You've got the next lot of up and coming bands are going there. But then you've also got the Vinyl Tap, which is kind of more like a music cafe. So there's places that will put it on, but the Ferret is probably the most known. And do you know what? It's hard enough as it is. But I've done a few gigs at the Ferret. They've got a great sound guy. All the bar staff will sit there and talk to you about music all the time, like all day long.
Yeah.
It's always friendly, and then some of the times, unless it's where people's mates are going to see them or it's a bigger act and people are buying tickets for that bigger act, it tends to be that people don't really go there and they've just about saved it. It's
so depressing.
It is horrible.
It is. Is this I don't know, is this to do with maybe the smoking ban a little bit? I know it was a long time ago, but do you think that had an impact?
I think that might have had an effect at the beginning. I think now people are used to it and they deal with it, but it's fine. Most places have smoking areas anyway, so it's not where it is sheltered now.
The thing is, even around here, if I put a little bit of a not even off the wall cover, but something that I may be more like that isn't just your standards, you can see people's attention drift. Yeah. So imagine them putting an original tune in somewhere around here. God. It's just not going to happen, is it?
That's
to be honest, it depends where you go.
It does.
I think you have to have, if you get an audience that are banging to their tunes.
Yeah.
Great. I try to chuck one or two in. But you have to gauge the time to do it. If you're performing somewhere for the first time, they're already out there going, all right, you better be good, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So you don't want to just chuck your own stuff in there then. You want to be quite well established before you do that in a venue. I think it's so hard because if you then think, oh, I'm not established enough, you then never do it.
Yeah.
So sometimes I just thought, you know what, sorry, I'm just going to play it.
Yeah.
And generally it does get quite well received.
Yeah.
But it's harder. It's harder to be well received when people don't know you or aren't listening.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, there's definitely an element of you have to prove yourself worthy of their attention or whatever. It's why? How did we get here? Because it doesn't make any sense to me, and it's just it's one of the biggest exports from this country, isn't it?
Yeah.
I remember someone saying, I think this was during Brexit. Someone said that it's the same, it makes the same money for the country as the fishing industry does.
Right, yeah.
But the amount of headlines and drama there was about the fishing industry, but to save that with for Brexit and the music industry was going to be so damaged by it, and it had the exact same impact on the economy and stuff, and it's just viewed as this.
And we were told to go and get other jobs.
Yes, we were, weren't we?
Okay, well, we'll try and be a little bit more positive moving forward. So.
Let's burn the place
we're going to talk about your EP, which was released in December 22.
It was.
Feral Heart, is that right?
Feral Heart.
And it's got 3 tunes on that EP, hasn't it?
Yeah.
My favourite being False Spring, but no, I've really enjoyed the tunes. I wanted to ask you about, what would you say your genre is, or is it not really a specific genre? You've just got faerie folk.
I call it faerie folk. Or
is that an actual genre, or is that?
I don't know.
No, fair enough.
I put it as a hashtag on Bandcamp, that and dream folk, and it already seems to exist. So I think there's a couple of other people out there who've had a similar idea, but a lot of that just comes from I try and put a lot of etherealness into my tunes. I'm a big fan of the Cocteau Twins. I don't know if you guys have listened to them. It's all it's that's what dream pop is basically. It's kind of like shoegaze but weirder.
Okay.
Basically.
Right, okay.
And the vocals are indecisive. You can't tell what she's saying after all the vocals.
There's a lot of shimmer on the instruments as well, isn't there? A lot of shimmery reverbs.
A lot of
and
reverb.
It's
plate reverbs and stuff.
I want to say Enchanted, but is that right?
Yes, that's absolutely the word.
Where does that inspiration come from then with the faerie folk?
I think a lot of that comes from being half Irish, so a lot of this mythology comes from there.
Yeah.
and also always being like a big like fantasy nerd, like as in, you know, Lord of the Rings and like Game of Thrones and faerie sort of things. So yeah, I've just kind of always been drawn to that, like, you know, magical side of stuff, and that's always been a big part of my, you know, like my artwork as well is you know, always like goddesses and fairies and mermaids and things like that. So I just, those are the subjects that just like occupy my brain basically.
Oh, it's cool. You seem to have made that your own as well, like with the you can hear it in the music and
cool, I'm glad.
It's wicked. Yeah,
because I wanted to try and find a way to like show that through sound as well as just like the lyrics. So like the like layering of vocals and things like that is like really important to my 100%. To my sound.
So I want to ask you about your songwriting technique and style. It probably isn't always the same, but is it like the lyrics that typically manifest themselves first? Is it, you know, you might sit down with your fiddle or with the guitar and think of something, or might you just think of a particular experience and then sit down and work with that experience, or is it different?
Well, I generally think that I tend to write songs when I'm like pining over something or someone. And so I've got a song that I'm working on at the moment called North, and that came from living in London and just fucking hating it. This was like 2017, and I'd moved there by mistake basically. I was like, oh, I'll just see how this goes, and I just hated it because I'd come from Liverpool to London. I was only there for a year and then I moved to Manchester. But yeah, like I wrote this song North about like it was also the time when like the season 7 of Game of Thrones was on, so I don't know if you guys ever watched that, but like it was the time the Starks were coming back to Winterfell.
No, yeah, I did watch most of it, to be fair. It got very confusing for me though. There's like storylines going on. It wasn't simple enough for me.
Yeah, you have to pay attention.
No, it was good.
But yeah, so like those two kind of things I kind of like blended in my head, and so it kind of became about like traveling home to the north, like going, even though like, I know I'm not from here technically, but you know, it feels like home to me.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah, and then like my whole EP, Feral Heart, I wrote about just like an experience I had last year. I like kind of fell in love with my friend, and he already was with somebody, and it kind of looked like something was going to happen, and then it didn't. And so instead of like I don't know, like I did a lot of crying about it, obviously, but then it just really kind of inspired me. I guess because I had all these feelings and nowhere to put them, so I just kind of made music about it instead. So it
manifested itself from like an idea or an experience, and then you sit down with that, and then you start to write the lyrics for it. How did it manifest?
I think I tend to start with like a melody. Although sometimes the music and the melody, the melody and the words come to me all in one. So the most recent single I've put out is called A Dream of Trees and Stars, and that, have you guys ever had this experience where you you come up with something, you come up with an idea, and you're like, that came to me too easily, that must already be a song?
Yeah.
That happened to me, like I was literally like in bed at my parents' house at Christmas, and this like half a song basically came to me as I was just like lying in bed like trying to fall asleep, and I quickly like grabbed my phone and like recorded a voice message, and I was like, do you know what, tomorrow morning I'm going to wake up and listen to that and be like, oh yeah, this is already like a Cranberries song or something. Haven't yet found the song that I've ripped off, so I think it's so strange, ideas just come to you fully formed.
Definitely.
It's like how is that happening?
I think my most played song, Clear Out, on Spotify, is just literally, I heard this chorus, it had full drums, backing vocals. I must have had a stage of about 20 people on it. But I literally heard the chorus, I was like, oh, that does sound very Oasis-y. That's almost like the backing vocals were very Take That as well. It's like a callback.
Take That.
It's weird. It's a weird mix, but when you hear it, it actually works.
It works, yeah.
But I was listening to it and listening to it in my head, because musicians aren't crazy, we're just schizophrenic when we write songs. It was very strange that I was like, that's got to already be a song, and I put the lyrics into Google and it wasn't. So it was like, right, okay, this has got to get written and recorded right now. But I didn't get to do it, but for some reason it's stuck in my head. Normally those ideas go, don't they? But this one stuck around. So it
It's so
made me think,
strange.
right, yeah, this is the next
Don't forget it's weird as you're falling asleep as well. I've had that before, where you're falling asleep and you have to question whether you can be asked getting out of bed and recording it,
I
or whether you
always
just go
do.
to sleep. Yeah.
I can't. I can't. Like,
it
let
always seems to
those
be in that
pass
sort
by.
of transitional phase into going to sleep, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Or a lot of the time, anyway.
I think the ones that, from my experience, the ones that come to you fully formed tend to be your best songs.
Isn't it so strange? But this is where the idea of the Muses comes from, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like Greek mythology, because like those, where else could they come from? It feels spiritual. It feels like a download from the universe.
Yeah.
You know.
Like there's no, it's come from nothing. You're not even sat anywhere near a guitar.
Yeah.
Like, I used to get a lot of ideas when I was working in an office.
Yeah.
I got
'Cause you're
all
just
my
doing
ideas in an
something
office. It was
repetitive, right?
weird.
Yeah.
It was weird. All of a sudden, I'd be like there, like probably falling asleep at my desk. No, me.
Yeah.
And then just an idea just comes out of thin air. Like, hang on a minute, what's that?
It's so strange. It's amazing. Just like I would love to know the science behind that,
No,
because
absolutely.
it's just magical otherwise.
Yeah.
You know, it's but yeah, because they do tend to be your best ideas. That's the weirdest thing about it. I'm trying to think of anything really, really shit that has just come. Like normally the things that are shit are the things that you have to force.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which-
Like, yeah, I was going to mention that. That was probably going to be my next question. Have you ever had a song idea that you thought was going to be brilliant? Nothing else came to you, and you're trying to guide it somewhere. Or maybe you had a really good idea for a chorus, but you had no verse leading up to it. How do you have you ever had to manage to get around that and make something worthwhile out of it, or have you?
I've definitely had songs that I've taken like 10 years to write, where I've got like part of an idea and, you know, luckily it's like stayed in my brain, or I've got a voice note from like years ago, or I've written it down. Less likely that I've written it down because I've only just learned how to do that, really. But yeah, not like read and write. Just a quick clip.
Luke's just learnt this Morris dancing, so
Morrissey dancing.
To write music, you know. So like, I'll have like pieces of songs, and like I've kind of learned to just like let them just sit and just be like, okay, I've got half an idea, I've got a chorus, or I've got a verse, or I've got a riff or something, and eventually something else will come along into my brain from wherever it comes from that fits with it. So that's usually like my kind of process. Like either it comes to me like fully formed, and it's just like, how the hell did that happen? Or it can take like a really long time to piece together.
Like, I think, when I was talking about that particular song, that was you hear all these artists go, well, the song wrote itself, and you used to think, oh, that's a load of crap.
It's so true.
Yeah,
though, isn't it?
you're talking crap,
So
and then when
true.
you actually get the idea where the song just writes itself, that chorus idea just sprang the verse idea, then had the pre-chorus idea, then the solo came to me. It's like, oh my God, this actually happens.
It's so true. Like when I was at art school, we had a lot of really fucking pretentious tutors, but one of them said, when you're doing a painting, it was like, there's a point where it becomes a conversation. Like it becomes like, you know, it just becomes obvious what to do, because it writes itself, it paints itself, and that's exactly what that is, right? So strange. Yeah, it's amazing though. It's very kind of like, I don't know, it's one of those moments where you just, it just feels like everything kind of falls into place. And you're just
What do you think your favourite part about songwriting is?
Favourite part? I mean, I guess when it feels automatic. That's just a real. It's called flow state, isn't it? That's the word I was looking for. And you get into flow state because it's just it just becomes easy. It just becomes straightforward. That's the that just feels incredible, that moment. But I was going to say, actually, on a slightly different take, I did, when I wrote Horiath on my EP, that was the most like methodical I've ever been about writing a song, and it was because I'd only just really learned about like music theory, and so I'd learned about like chord progressions, you know, like the Roman numerals thing. So I was just like, I'm going to try and write a song based on that. And kind of like do like unusual chord progressions or whatever, and also like have have like sections, so it wasn't all just like verse, chorus, verse. I just wanted to kind of experiment and make it something a bit.
It's about 8 minutes long, isn't it? So
yeah.
a lot of planning to it, really.
Yeah. Well, it's just like several pieces, really.
Pieces, yeah.
And I wanted it to kind of, I don't know. Yeah, it was just like that's where I wanted to kind of put all like my really like negative feelings about the experience like into just like and make it really. But when I first listened to it back, I was like, oh god, this is so sad. Like the first kind of like verse chorus. I was just like, fucking hell, man. And then it just kind of like. And it kind of wakes up a bit and it's like, ah! And so I think maybe that was an element of it as well. I was like, I don't really want this to just be really like. Really like woe is me.
No, that makes sense. So I wanted to ask you specifically, so my favourite song off your EP is Fall Spring.
Yeah.
So I was doing a bit of research on you yesterday, I don't want to be too weird, but there was a video where you'd said that you'd wasted so much time in bad relationships.
Yes.
And, you know, that could have been spent becoming a better artist or a better musician. But actually, I can hear the sort of hopelessness in your lyrics in that song. So really, can you not look at that as like fuel for writing good music, really?
Yeah, I think there's a saying, isn't there? Like, what's hard for you isn't necessarily bad for you. That's a good saying. Like, that's a saying I think this relates to.
Yeah. Well, I was on this, Reform Radio in Manchester.
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah.
We were me and some other female singer-songwriters. We did like a little kind of roundtable thing yesterday on that, and we all had the exact same thing of just like when you're happy. When you're in a good relationship, when you're in a good place, you do your worst work.
Yeah.
And the opposite applies. Like the most miserable situations tend to like breed like the best kind of content. But however, I would say when I said about like wasting time in bad relationships, I think the issue was that I wasn't spending time practicing my instrument because I was, obsessing about someone, like why is he acting like this, why is he treating me like this, and just, so I think that's the part that gets in the way because, there's like Adele and Taylor Swift, people like that who have made, and like probably everyone actually have made like a living out of,
heartache,
turning those experiences into just like, a fucking lot of money. So But
it was more that development as a musician rather than the actual
because you're like lacking the energy to focus on, when you're in those situations, you lack the energy to focus on like anything except like why is this happening. But yeah, so I've kind of learned now to like, as much as I can, like when I'm like sad about something, obviously it's very hard to kind of make yourself go like, okay, well I'm going to do my hours practice but as soon as I make myself start doing it, I'm like, I feel so much better. So this goes back to what I said about earlier about being a coping strategy of all of the things.
I think that's weird because the happy songwriting has only just come to me. Like, before I try and write happy songs, and I'm 100% with you, they were awful. They were cheesy as anything. I literally just ripped them up. I've chucked them away now.
Really?
But I think my latest song is actually about having a good time after a difficult week of work with my mates, and it's probably one of the best songs I've ever written.
That's good.
But I think sometimes the happier ones can just be the most basic thing you do. It's 3-4 chords, I think, with this one. And it's just a catchy melody, over 3-4 chords. There's nothing to it really.
Yeah.
But sometimes I think that simplicity does come into it. Have you ever, obviously you're saying your most depressing work is your best work. Have you actually had a happy song that you might have been proud of at all?
I'm trying to think of any happy songs I've ever written. I wrote one called the Leaving Song, and this is one that I wrote over this is not one that took me years to finish, which might have also something to do with this. But that's more, it's not really a happy song, but it's positive, and it's like a kind of like defiant kind of thing of just like, I'm gonna get out of this situation, and the chorus is like, I'm not afraid anymore. So maybe that's about as happy as I get. I should try and write something happy. Maybe about my cats or something. I don't know.
Tom Jones already had a go at that, didn't he?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's a shit song. To be fair.
My mate went to see him and he went for a beer at that song because he just could not stand it.
Fair, absolutely fair. God, yeah. Are there any? I mean, I do like, you know, love songs that are like, you know, happy and positive.
I mean, I think False Spring has some elements of positivity in it because you're putting all the bad. Well, the way I interpret it is you're putting all the toxicities aside. And you're sort of still going to be waiting for this person in a way as well. So there is a little bit of like the glimmer of hope in there as well, almost. I think it's the glimmers of hope sometimes.
Definitely, I think that because I don't really like explaining my lyrics because I like people to kind of
interpret it their own way.
Yeah, because someone said to me once, like once you've made like an artwork or a song or whatever, and you've put it out there, it no longer belongs to you. It belongs to everybody who listens to it or looks at it. And I really like that. However, the kind of the basis of it was just like, you meet someone and you're just like, you just feel something like incredible. Like we've met before. I feel like I've known you my whole life. So that's kind of what it was based on, of like meeting again and like every like lifetime and stuff. So yeah, that's quite hopeful. The way I would phrase it is malignantly optimistic. Just like, I'm just gonna keep putting myself in this shitty situation because I can't help myself. Yeah, but you know, but the thing about that is that that whole EP I wrote about this really hard situation, but at the same time, I don't have the same sadness about the situation anymore at all. But I got an EP out of it, and I got some of my best work out of it, and that's why I think it's just like the best way to cope with anything. It's just like make some art about it, make some music about it.
I think that point that you make about it doesn't belong to you anymore. There's two artists that have spoken about this. Like, I think Noel Gallagher, he said he listens to his crowds, watches his crowd singing "Don't Look Back in Anger" back to him, and he's like, "Who the fuck's Sally? Like, what's she angry about?" And then goes, but it means something to them, so it doesn't matter. And Tool said they don't put lyrics in any of their album covers because it doesn't matter if their audience misinterpret lyrics. It'll mean something different to them anyway.
That's really nice. I like that.
We are going to have to I'm sorry.
No problem.
We're going to cut this short.
I've got 30 seconds in. I'm thinking, how am I going to interrupt? We're going to preview a little bit of False Spring into this next ad break and give you a little bit of a teaser for the end of the episode. So we'll catch you in a minute. Cheers.
Enjoy.
Howdy, partner. It's the Sheriff here. Sorry to interrupt your episode. We just wanted to take a little bit of time out to promote our social media pages, because at the end of the day, that's what life's all about, isn't it? So, head over to Tom's Cast 1 on Instagram, Facebook and TikTok. TikTok, we do more stupid videos, whereas Instagram and Facebook are a little bit more informative, so take your pick. Also, you're listening to us today, of course, on YouTube, so please subscribe to our YouTube channel. That helps a lot. If you could like and share our YouTube videos as well, that would be more than appreciated. We're also on Apple Podcasts as well, so if you could head over to there and rate and review us. And hopefully by the time this goes out as well, we're on Spotify, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Back to the episode, shall we? You've got lots of work to do. What are you waiting for? See you soon.
Yeah, right. Okay, welcome back to the One More Songcast. We're into the third and final part of the episode. And we wanted to talk a little bit about gigging in Manchester and your recent, I don't know if it's love for busking, but you've started busking, haven't you, in Manchester? So we'll go on to that first. So busking in Manchester must be massive. Like, there must be a lot of people doing it.
Yeah.
Describe a typical day of, I know you've only been doing it for a short time, but what's a typical day like of busking, and how does it compare to standard gigs, really?
Well, I guess the way I think of it is like being paid to practice.
Yeah.
And yeah, like a typical day, I suppose. I mean, I've not done it that many times. So I don't know typical.
How many times have you done it?
Only like 3 now. I started like last week.
Yeah.
But I'd been meaning to do it for such a long time.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I guess I was just too, like, I was really nervous and I kept putting it off. And then I think one day last week, it was just really sunny and I was like, oh, come on, just do it. I was literally messaging some of my friends, just being like, I'm really nervous. And they were like, you'll smash it. Okay. So I just got there, set up my stuff, and just started.
Do you have to like book a slot somewhere, or you literally just turn up anywhere?
Turn up. Yeah,
obviously, you can't be blocking doorways and stuff. So do you have to?
Yeah.
You kind of have to. You can, but can you literally just set up anywhere? And
you
get
don't
going?
need a license.
Right.
You don't need. There's like, I obviously looked it up on the council website, and it just says like you've got to, like, they prefer you to move on within like 90 minutes or something, but no one checks.
Right. Yeah.
And yeah.
Are you wrestling with other musicians for good spots in the city and stuff, or is it not really like that?
Well, on Saturday I went down just because it was a really sunny day and it was a Saturday, so I was like, obviously I need to go today. And I kind of walked through like Market Street, and like Market Street is always super busy on Saturdays anyway. But so that was like there was a lot of people on there, so I just kind of carried on walking. And interestingly, like, you get a lot more people on Market Street than you do on like St. Peter's Square or St. Anne's Square, both of which are like probably like more well-to-do areas. So I don't have that much to compare it to, because those are the two places where I've busked and I've done really well and got really nice like feedback and stuff like that. But yeah, it was really scary the first time I did it, just because it was like a brand new thing and I didn't know if I was going to get like loads of abuse from knobheads or whatever. But luckily,
so I'm guessing you didn't then. I'm guessing it went well. Yeah,
it went really well, and I was just hooked. I was like, definitely gonna do this.
So you know, you sometimes see on YouTube, you get these crowds of people that start to did anything like that.
No.
What does it feel like? You know, in a gig, obviously, probably less than 90% of the time, people are there to watch the music. What is it like when people are kind of just going past and no one's probably not many are really paying that much attention? Is it a bit what's the word I'm looking for? A bit of a confidence drop, or is it just it is what it is and you're part of the square almost?
Yeah, I guess kind of become part of the ambience, don't you? I mean, a lot of people will like film you, and then just walk off, but it's like,
where's that going?
I know. But I don't get a confidence drop from people not watching. As long as like occasionally there's like a bit of money getting dropped in, then I don't worry about it. And I just figure, like, if I don't get any money from this, I will have like practiced and I would have done this at home anyway. But I've not had a time yet where I haven't got any money at all. I've always made like consistently around like the same amount, just like between like 15 and 20 quid for like hour and a half, 2 hours or something. So like I've just figured like it's what I would be doing at home anyway.
Definitely.
But I've not had the like crowds of people. Kids are great when you're busking, because they just come up and like, if their parents are like sitting on a bench, like, you know, messaging someone or something like that, the kids will just come over and just like dance together. Like, that's just adorable. It's really nice. But yeah, I actually find it like a little bit liberating sometimes when like I said, as long as there's like a little bit of money coming in every now and then, it actually can be quite nice not getting an applause at the end and not feeling like
it's not expected, is it? So not that it is in pubs, but there's always that awkward transition sometimes, especially when we do the covers, where it's like there's that awkward bit between people aren't really clapping you and you're like, oh god, and you go into the next one, whereas it's not really expected in the street, is it?
Yeah, because it's just like, well, I don't mind if people aren't listening to me anyway. They're going on about their lives, and that's fine. But like I think there's, when you do a gig that's like, you know, you're kind of meant to be background music, and you know, like, when you get a few claps at the end, it's just out of politeness and it's not out of anything else. So like, you know, that I find that way more of like a confidence drop,
definitely,
than like just no one clapping in the street, because like, obviously why would they? So it's fine.
You're right.
I think this is the thing I've had to sort of shift my mindset with. So when I was in bands, the first gig was really, really lively. And then the next gig, there was like about 5 or 6 people there when we were on. So it just wasn't, you'd have the post-gig blues after that. I think when I went to play acoustic, first couple of times it was lively, the next time it was kind of dead. But you just sort of learn to deal with a quiet audience. Like, all right, okay, maybe just do a few straight into the other. And I think until you can get hold of yourself and sort of say, well, listen, you're still being paid, like, this isn't the end of the world. They're just not going to engage. you then start to watch people, and people are miming along or singing along. They might just actually just be sitting there watching you.
Totally.
It's a whole different ball game, isn't it?
Yeah, like with my band, like we've definitely done some gigs that are like in like old man pubs or whatever, and they're normally the most like the least reactive audiences. They kind of will sit there and like clap and just not smile at all. You're playing these like little like those little towns like Darwin, like we've played in Darwin.
I live in Darwin.
Do you? Yeah. So number 39.
Oh,
we've played there quite a few times.
Yeah.
Do you know Martin then?
No, I don't really gig round Darwin. I gig more Preston and Chorley area, but I know it's got a decent music scene, to be fair. It's got like the blues bar and stuff like that as well, which I think they have music on in, but yeah.
But yeah, it's always like, whenever we've played there, like we always kind of have like a really like subdued crowd who like don't really you get the odd like young person dancing, but mostly it's like I got sort of older people and they'll like applaud politely, but then at the end they'll just come and buy like so many t-shirts and CDs and stuff, and it's just so surprising because you're like, we're like a sack of shit, but actually they just are less demonstrative. And
no, it's true. It's been the same where they get the booking diary out and they're like, oh, we'll book you in for 5 dates, and you're thinking, oh right,
oh, was that good?
Yeah.
Is that how you?
Yeah, and you're like, you don't know what to think, do you?
Yeah.
So this can go into gigging around Manchester as well. But what's your most memorable? So obviously we're from smaller towns than obviously Manchester and Liverpool and stuff. There must be some crazy gig stories that you've got. Might be with your band, it might be in the city, it might even be from your short time with Busking, where you just think, oh my god, what on earth what happened there? Is there anything crazy?
I was in like positive or negative?
Probably negative, but
more than anything, the negative ones are always remembered.
I've kind of got one of each which are connected.
Yeah, that's cool.
So we had our album launch last year in February, which was like it was a little bit, I mean, it was one of the most stressful things we've ever done, just because there was so much to organise. Everything was on us, and the venue weren't like particularly helpful. I won't name them just in case they listen to this, but they promised a lot of stuff that they did not deliver, so it was just all on us to sort everything out. But like, and we didn't sell like that many tickets coming up to it, so we were just like ugh. And then on the day it sold out, and it was incredible.
Wow.
And like the videos from it are just like I didn't know that many people knew the words to our songs.
Right, yeah.
It was just such a buzz. It was absolutely
So was this
incredible.
with the band?
This was with Matt Hartless and the Maverick 7. Yeah. It was just like the biggest buzz ever. And that obviously like came away on a high from that, and it just took me till like 3 a.m. to stop, like for the adrenaline to like kind of cool off, and for me to actually be able to like sleep. And then like 2 weeks later we played at an all-dayer at another venue in town. And like it was like on 2 floors, so there was like one bar downstairs and we were playing upstairs in the other bar, and like they had neglected to signpost that there was bands upstairs. There was literally one guy standing there watching us for our whole set, and as soon as we finished he like walked so fast out of the door, because he was obviously like, well, I can't leave because that would be rude, but he clearly wanted to piss for a long time or something. And like we were just like, that was like 2 weeks apart, just like playing to like sold out crowd who knew all the words to our stuff to nobody. And it was just like, it's funny how that goes.
That is literally our job in a nutshell, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I'll ask you off camera if it's a venue I'm thinking of, but no, that's no, I've experienced that. Like one gig, absolutely buzzing on a high, everyone's like bouncing, and then the next gig you just get 3 people in the bar. Like, it's normally busy on a Saturday.
Yeah. No.
Well, clearly it's not tonight.
Yeah. Well, these things are sent to keep us humble, and we just kind of were like, well, let's just play some stuff that we are not as like comfortable with, and it's like kind of a way to like introduce it into our set. So we kind of found ways to make it work, and we're just like, let's just have fun. And we still like throw all the shapes and stuff, and like we're dead silly on stage like we always are. Chose to not let it like bother us, but like it fucking sucked, and it was like, oh, come on.
I suppose it's better being with a band than it is if that happened to you on your own, because then you probably
I don't
really
think I would
feel
bother.
I'd
just be like, I'm just gonna
stop.
Yeah, don't worry about the fee, like just leave it.
But we went downstairs and walked out through the other bar was fucking rammed. There's literally a lack of signposting. I think it was a fucking tribute act playing as well. So that could also be it. Going back to the main theme of this episode, how much Shelli Le Fay hates tribute
So
art.
that kind of, I think we've covered most of the busking, especially if you haven't been doing it for long.
Yeah, not that much to say yet.
No,
unfortunately.
that leads us on to, well, actually, before we move on, is with busking. So, what are the main benefits for you if somebody's thinking of busking? Maybe they already gig, maybe they don't. What would you say the main benefits are for someone to go out and busk?
Confidence boosting, I think. Like learning to work with different kinds of crowds, I think, is like important. But also, I mean, the main thing, like I said, is getting paid to practice. And knowing that you're going to have... Like, my attitude to it has just been, like, as long as I make my bus fare home, then, like, I've done a good job. You know, as long as I'm, like, not in negative credit, you know.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah. So, like... And I always made, like, way more than that. And I think it's just with any rubbish gig or with any good gig or with busking or anything, like I just think the best thing to do is just like find a way to learn from it. You know, like there's always something educational from every situation, isn't there? And busking is great for one of the reasons. Like we've only done it once with my band, but we had so many people from like kind of different backgrounds like stop and watch us, so that was a time when we actually had like a little bit of a crowd, just because, you know, it was a band, and I do think violin gets a lot of attention generally because people see it as some
quite
kind
niche as well,
people see it as some kind of like witchcraft. Like, how do you make that sound like that? That was a really good experience because we got so many people from like different backgrounds. It wasn't all just like young, like white kids basically watching us.
And do you have like a QR code or something that they can then go and see your band on Spotify?
This was like pre-pandemic, so we were still relying on cash. But these days, we definitely do the sum up thing as well, or like QR code. Or
it is a great, especially for original music. I think it's a great exposure, isn't it?
How much does it sort of generally cost if I'm say thinking about busking? Because people have recommended amps to me, they're like £600.
Yes.
The battery power.
Even the Roland Cube ones?
Yeah, they're the most expensive.
Wow.
I'm so lucky. My friend has just lent his to me.
Right.
My friend Mike Gruber. Shout out to Mike Gruber because he's producing my music at the moment, and he's just the most wonderful person. But he had a busking amp. I think he's just one of these guys who collects gear, and he never goes busking. He bought it for like one busking thing he was doing with like some of his guitar students, I think. And then when I posted on Facebook that like, can anyone recommend a busking amp? He was like, oh, you can borrow mine. And I was like, are you sure? And he was like, oh, I'm not using it. And so I just kind of got that a long-term loan. So I'm so lucky.
Yeah, that's cool.
So like this is the thing. It's like £500 new, I think. It was so depressing. I know, because you're not.
Is it cheaper to buy a generator? Do you think? Just use your normal PA.
Great.
Like massive desk with like a table there.
Sound man, everything. Yeah.
Right, I think we should move. I think we should move on to talking about your band. So, is the style of music pretty similar? I'll be totally honest. I've listened to your stuff, and we are going to get your band on hopefully at some point as well. Is the style of music very different to your solo stuff?
I would say so because that's why I'm doing solo stuff, I suppose. Yeah. Otherwise, I would just be like, let's play these songs in the band. But Matt is the main songwriter, Matt Hartless. But I've written a couple of things where they're just like instrumental, folky things. So it's very much his baby. You know, he's had this band in various forms and with various names since he was like 16 or something crazy like that. And he's amazing. He's a genius songwriter and musician. But it's so hard to categorize what our music is, because when I joined, it kind of, I think they had a violinist briefly before, but it wasn't really geared towards that kind of music, and I've kind of dragged it in like a more folky punky kind of direction. Okay. But there's also a lot of other influences, a lot of like ska. Right. There's a lot of like, I don't know, like me and Matt are both obsessed with Muse, so there's like a lot of that in it as well.
A lot of dramatic harmonic minor.
Oh yes, all that, lots of weird modes and stuff as well. And Yeah, it's so hard to categorize, and I just say like we're folk punk just because people see that we have a violinist, and so they're like, oh, it's folk music. It's fucking not at all. But yeah, it's fun, is what it is.
Ah,
it's
brilliant.
Fun.
So, booking gigs with the band in a city centre. What do you think the general music scene's like in Manchester at the minute, or in cities? Do you think it's changed as you've been in music? Where do you think it's at now, and where do you think it's going?
We talked about this,
especially for original music as well.
Yeah, this is the thing. It's just like, I don't know. I think so. Yeah, I was saying before that like I did go to a gig on Saturday night, which was Metal to the Masses final. And
so that's like a battle of the bands type.
Yeah, so it's not quite like a normal gig, and it's like there's many heats and stuff. But I went because my friend's band ended up winning it, Square Wild, who are amazing. But that is the most packed I've seen in like gig for original music in a really long time, and it was very encouraging to see it, to see that it's a thing that still happens. But it's a shame that that's kind of like. The exception. Do you think
there's things that people could be doing, not even necessarily the musicians, but promoters, venues? Do you think there's a way that they could all club together, and what would you sort of change about the way things are being done now, and maybe what could be done, if that makes sense?
I would just say, please, just like book less tribute acts and make it like less covers. Oh, sorry guys, I know you guys do covers.
No, we play in pubs. I don't want original music. That's how we make our earnings.
But you can definitely understand it in cities, 100%.
Yeah, I think that it's. I think the problem is that it's always about the bottom line, isn't it? Like they need to do what's going to make them money, especially now when everyone's absolutely skint. So it's like. Fair enough, you guys know that tribute acts are going to bring in more money, but there needs to be like, I was going to say there needs to be more balance. There is balance, obviously, but like, wouldn't it be good if like, every promoter was just like, or every bar was just like, we're going to have like one night a month where we have tribute acts, and the rest of the time, it's originals only, because. Yeah, I think so much of it's about people being in their comfort zone, isn't it? And it's like, I guess it's the same for me, just listening to the same music over and over. And I feel like it's a massive effort that I have to make to be like, no, I'm actually going to look for something new.
I agree with that, yeah.
And that's what it is, isn't it? It's just that, but in a live.
Even listening to your tunes yesterday isn't something I would ordinarily do, so it was quite enjoyable, yeah.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad.
I think that's why we're trying to get original bands at the end of the show, because people won't listen to it otherwise.
No.
It's hard to it's hard to get people to listen to new music as it is, because they'll listen to the first 30 seconds nowadays and they'll decide whether they like it from that. They're probably not even into the chorus. It's like when I don't know how much you've actually tried playlisting, but there's a website called Submit Hub.
Okay.
And you get like 2 free standard credits when you sign up. You have to pay for the credits to submit to these like bloggers, TikTokers, playlist curators on Spotify and Deezer and all this sort of thing. And it'll tell you who's listened to it, how long they listened for.
That's useful, I suppose. And depressing as fuck.
Yeah, because on this Submit Hub, I've never been selected for a playlist. I've been selected for a few on this website called Soundplate, which is completely free to submit to, but it doesn't generate an amazing amount of listens, but it certainly helps. It's not like you get nothing from it. But yeah, people just like, I suppose people like that won't really have a time. So if they don't like it after a minute, they just, right, that's it. Then you're not getting in the playlist. It's so hard to really market it in that way. Yeah, I think it's because it's so accessible to everyone. Like you were saying before, it's all crowded social media. So where does it really end? It's just a battle from day one. So to back that up when you're not really getting the streams, to get people to shows, if your mates aren't coming, how are you getting it when you've not got the following?
And that's it. It's all about like getting that fan base, isn't it? I think that like TikTok is really interesting, like the way they do it, because you have like, I've got a TikTok and I've only just started using it really, but I'll try and put on all my videos. I'll try and put like a clip of one of my songs, just hopefully people hear it and they're like flicking through. And I think I've got like maybe one new fan out of that so far. I've definitely got one. Hopefully
it's a lot slower TikTok. Like Instagram, you can get like 50 followers in a day. It's weird. But TikTok, it's like it slowly builds. You don't get follow or unfollow as much. There's a lot of people that do that on Instagram. Oh my god, like there's so many times like I was like about to get to 500 followers. I get the 500 followers and the next thing I had 495 and I was like, oh my god,
like what did I do? What did I say?
But then you just get people doing it to trigger an algorithm, and it's like it really does my head in. I think that's why play games. I can't be bothered.
I agree.
No, it is a game, isn't it? Yeah, you're right. I think that's a great idea though, is like you say, potentially having dedicated original music nights and you pay those original musicians. I know it's a bit of a dreamy sort of thing, sadly, but I don't see why venues couldn't do that, even locally. So you said about flipping it so you've only got covers on once a month, but in towns like this you could flip it so you've got original music on once a month or whatever. You know, that would probably work.
I think like a rock night in a pub or something like that, just where you have it doesn't even have to be a rock night. It could be a themed night each month where you get bands of a certain genre in, or even if you didn't do a theme night, like you can just have tonight's new music night. Just have people coming on. You could have a few solo artists starting it off. Whatever.
Totally.
There's so many ways around it, but like we said, it like does feel like promoters feel like they're doing you a favour when they're not. Some of them aren't doing a lot to promote the show, and I'd say from my experience in Manchester, they were a lot better. Everyone got a unique ticket link, and it was just like, right, whatever you sell, it's £10 for the all-dayer. You sell a £10 ticket, you get £5 of it.
Oh,
fair enough.
I know the thing you mean.
Fat
Soma is a.
I think this one was done on Skiddle.
Oh yeah, I think it's the same.
But it worked. I think there's a million ticket sites that do the same thing. But like, fair enough. If you're doing it that way, I get it. You have to sell tickets to make money, and like even at the big stages.
Yeah.
Do you think the gig industry is dying, or do you think it's like there's still plenty of people going to gigs? So do you think it's actually dying, or do you think it's
changing? Probably.
Just it's gonna shift. It's waiting for its circle to come back.
I hope so. I mean, everyone loves festivals, right? There's always, festivals are kind of where it's at, I think. Like, that's where live music is, like, the most appreciated, I would say. And, like I said earlier, fucking festivals booking tribute bands now, and it's just like... Am I going to get cancelled for constantly slamming tribute bands?
No. We want these opinions on 100%.
Controversy, that seems to be like, as an artist, like the best kind of circuit to get on. That's my opinion. I don't know if I'm right about that.
The festival circuit.
Festivals, but that's also a matter of like getting your foot in the door. Yeah. Like my band's done a few. I haven't done any as a solo artist. But yeah, I think it's just about who you know. Like the arts is always about
who you know,
that, isn't it? But yeah, because a lot of the time you get paid really well. And you get a free ticket to a festival, and you can mix with loads of other bands, and people are just like wandering through, and they're like pissed or whatever else, and that makes them more likely to be like, yay, let's have a dance in the sunshine or in the rain to this like weird ass band that we never would have like seen in our normal lives. Definitely. Like I've discovered so much music that way. I used to go to a lot of festivals. So in my opinion, that's the best kind of scene. If you can call it that, because it definitely has dropped off a lot like the last 5.
What do you think to open mic nights as well? Do you think they're a cop out because obviously it's not paid, or do you think it's got its place like Busking has? And
I do quite a lot of open mics, but a lot of the time you just end up playing to the same to each other basically. You kind of all become friends, and that's great, and you all support each other. But whether it's achieves much other than you just have a bit of performance experience.
Yeah, a bit of practice.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I've got about 3 or 4 gigs off open mics in like 14 years. That's
really?
it. Like 4 gigs probably. Well, actually, no, I did meet Georgia in Donegal. It was when Georgia used to do the one, I think it's at Crown, around the corner. Like, obviously they set up an agency off the back of this. Georgia was having to turn down loads of gigs, so she just turned it into an agency. So I've probably had more off the back of that one open mic. But really, over the years, you think, I'll go to that venue because I want to play there. And most of the time, the owner's not even there for the open mic, or the landlady's not there, or the landlord not there.
That could be where you could potentially change that open mic. But at the end of the day, the open mic only really benefits the owner of the pub, really, doesn't it? Because they're getting music for free, typically.
No, they'll pay. Obviously, they're not paying the artist
they pay
for the
the
open.
host, though, don't
they pay the host.
Yeah.
The host will be getting a gig fee out of that.
Yeah, totally.
So it's no one's. I mean, there's people that do open mics for pittance, but no one's doing open mics for free.
No,
I hope not. Yeah.
No.
Right, I actually don't know how long we've got because I didn't start my timer. So what we'll do is we'll round this bit off a little bit, and then we've got a little bit of a game to finish off on as well, haven't we?
Yeah.
So what's I know it's a generic question, probably quite a broad question, but what's the future looking like for you with music? Where you're hoping to get to? What you're hoping to do? What you're hoping to achieve?
Just world domination, you know.
World domination,
just all the way.
So you've released an EP, obviously. Is the plan to release an album?
Well, kind of. I want to do like a waterfall release. So I released a single last month? I think it was last month. And I'm working on stuff with a friend who's like my producer, and I'm just gonna like release stuff on Bandcamp Fridays, like as often as I can. So that's the general plan, and maybe eventually I'll kind of like put that all together into like an album, like a CD.
I see.
Thing,
Does Bandcamp generally make much money, or like, obviously you have to advertise it well to actually make any money out of music anyway, but do you find that you're getting a lot of plays or a lot of purchases? Because you can do it where you pay what you want for the single, can't you? Yeah. That's the benefit of Bandcamp. It actually does go directly to the artist.
Yes, exactly. Although on Bandcamp Friday, like it's still like PayPal still takes a fee, which is really annoying.
Yeah.
It's just so you don't get all the money.
No.
I mean, it's only a few pennies that you lose, but still.
Yeah.
Come on. I wouldn't say I make that much money off of it. However, I kind of think of it as like the musician's platform, I guess. I see it as like I've discovered a lot of really good music on there.
So do you have to pay to get onto Bandcamp?
No.
I need to probably start doing that. I've only ever done Spotify.
Which you never get any money from, right?
Oh no, I've got money in the account, but I've got to make $25 before I can withdraw anything. I've got mine and my other band's original music on there. Both of them are sat at like £7 or something like that. And I've had like nearly 2,000 plays, so that makes sense.
Great.
So is there any festivals, venues that you're striving to get to? Is the ultimate thing for you with music that you just want to be enjoying and loving what you're doing, or is there a strive to go, well, if I can monetize this, then are you pushing for the monetization, or are you pushing for the fulfillment of the music you're making, if that makes sense?
I suppose both. Like obviously like the kind of making good music is always going to be like the most important thing. However, I would love to be able to do it like full time and not have to worry about. I mean, like I have been doing it full time, but I've also been on like universal credit. So you know that's where the majority of my income's been coming from. Unfortunately, and I would love to be at a point where I can just make money off of music full time, and hopefully that will happen one day. I always think of like fame as like a really quite a terrifying prospect, you know, and it's like it seems like it can be kind of really horrendous. So I don't know, I think there's like there's a balance to be had there of just, you know, who's got it absolutely perfect? It's fucking Matt Bellamy from Muse, because he doesn't get recognised very much. He gets recognised like 3 times a week maximum, but he's so rich and gets to play stadiums and stuff like that. He's living the dream.
I think that's the thing, they stay quiet when they're not touring. So then when they tour, they like go on this massive marketing campaign. And then just get lost for a while again.
Yeah,
Like, they just fuck off. No, I'm going to see Muse in a couple of weeks. I'm so excited.
Me too. You're going to the
Huddersfield.
Huddersfield one.
Yeah, yes,
I'll see you there. Oh, I'm so excited. It's gonna be
Super.
epic.
Oh, I can't wait for it because I've seen a few of the live DVDs. I never thought I was going to get the chance to see them once I hit stadiums, but like they put on a proper theatrical show.
I know. I'm so excited.
It's like being back in 1967 watching Muse.
Yeah.
So I can't wait for it.
Yeah. Have you seen the Simulation Theory film that they made?
No, do you know what? I've actually made a point of not listening to any of the newer stuff this time because I want to experience it live first.
Okay.
I do this with the odd band, but part of the reason is I just never get round to listening to new music, just like we were talking about.
Yeah.
I think I've discovered 2 new bands in 2 years.
Oh no!
It's horrendous.
Bad, isn't it?
But I'll listen to local bands as when I meet them and stuff like that. But I generally just don't ever get round to it because I'm trying to listen to podcasts and trying to do this. When I do listen to music, I just stick my normal playlist on.
Yeah.
So I think that does come with positives and negatives because when I go and see a band, I've not really listened to them, so I'm now seeing what they're like. The first time I see everything is live.
Yeah.
And it's just soaking in that atmosphere. I find that really interesting.
No, that's really interesting. Yeah, I like that because with Muse especially, it's all about the live show.
Yeah.
Like you can listen to them on CD if you're from the noughties, I suppose. You can listen to them their music and at home and be like, oh, this is a fucking banger. But watching videos of them play live is absolutely
just
phenomenal.
adds to it.
Yeah.
And the fact that Matt Bellamy can sweep pick it 260 BPM and sing over the top of it is just ridiculous.
He's just
I can't
not human.
No.
I'd love him
It's
so
weird.
much. Yeah.
Do you not find when you go to a concert or a gig and you don't know the words, or you feel like people are looking at you and go, oh, he's not a real fan?
Yes. I do
feel the judgment.
When
But
a song comes on, someone say that.
Yeah.
Pick the chorus up as you go.
But half the time I'm just sort of staring at especially if it's a band that I've loved for so long, or the song just stands out to me. Like I remember going to see Snow Patrol and everything was supporting them. They've got a song called Cough Cough. The first time I've heard them, they played that second, and it should have been the last song. It was amazing.
Really?
But I'm just there that's absolutely unbelievable. Mesmerised by this song. I'm like, wow, what have I just seen? These are amazing.
That's nice though. When you're stuck in the moment, you just go limp.
I mean, it was worse when I started dribbling on my own leg. Probably a bit too far there.
Hopefully everyone else was watching about it.
Right, I reckon we call it there for a break. We'll come back with a quick game and we'll introduce your song for the end of the episode as well. So cheers, and we'll see you in a minute.
Hello, it's me, Preston's biggest dick, and I'm not talking about my attitude problem. Help! I need somebody! Well, Tony at Timpan Alley Guitars helps. He's very good for your services, setups, part replacement, and much, much more. I've had many of my guitars fixed by Tony, just from his house in his little workshop, and he does a fantastic job. So, to find out more about it, go onto Tony's Facebook page, Tony Helps, or type in Tin Pan Alley Guitars on Facebook, and you will see the range of guitars that Tony has fixed and also put together himself. He also does charity auctions to raffle off guitars that he has fixed up, all for good causes. So, without further ado, go and check him out. Back to the episode. One more song, 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 one more song. Thank you very much.
Right, we're into the last part. We're going to play a little game with Shelli Le Fay. A guess the riff game. So me and you will go against each other. And what do you reckon? Best of three?
Best of three sounds good.
Best of three. So winner is to two, basically, isn't it? So,
yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right.
First one.
First one.
Is it any genre?
Any genre. we're opening all doors that I know.
Right. If it's all Muse, I'm fucked.
Okay.
To be fair, I'm not sure I'll even attempt it.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Know it.
Whole lot
You know
of
this-
love. Whole lot of love. That's it.
Correct. 1-0 Shelley.
Is this going to be quick?
Maybe. Okay.
Best of 5.
Best of 5.
Okay.
Well, this is all of a sudden increase.
Time Called Malice.
Yeah, that's it. Town Called Malice by who? Sorry?
You did that just for me because you knew I'd know it.
Trying to make the game interested here.
Who's it by?
The Jam.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Okay. You can have the point.
Right. Yeah. Play the game properly. Right. Let's think about this.
Sweet Home Alabama. But I don't know.
Yeah, who's it by? Creedence Clearwater?
Yeah.
If I just probably like.
No, you're right. Sweet Home Alabama.
Sweet Home Alabama.
Yeah.
Clearwater.
Not Creedence
Who is it
Clearwater.
by?
Lynyrd Skynyrd.
Oh, of course it is. No.
Half a
Yes.
point.
Half a point for
So
both.
No.
Oh, for me.
You definitely said it first.
Oh, okay. 1.5, 1. Half time score.
Right. Right. What do we play now? Oh, this is really hard now.
He's not very good at guitar.
No. I'm shocking at guitar. I've just been blagging my way through a music career.
Red
Oh, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Scar Tissue.
Yes! Point to Shelley.
I knew it was Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Alright, we won't get done for copyright for that one. That was very quick. Right.
It's about 3 notes.
Winner takes all now.
Oh, yeah.
2 to 1.5.
Yeah, 2 to 1.5. It's set itself up nicely. James Bay, Hold Back the River.
Correct.
What a crap
Luke
way to
wins.
win that.
I've never heard of that song.
There you are.
No, not at all.
Hold back the river. No, it's a crap. Well,
Maybe.
it's not the best.
It was all I could think of.
I didn't really want to
I
win
was
it on
under
that,
pressure.
but you know.
I was under pressure, so, you know.
There we go, I've won. Sorry about that.
Well done. Well done.
Yeah. Right, so we're gonna conclude the episode with your with a song from your EP, False Spring. I think it's a banging tune. The chorus and the melody stuck in my head all weekend, which is always a good sign, isn't it? I know you don't want to give away too much of what the song's about, but introduce it in your own way, and we'll flick the episode.
Are we not doing quickfire questions?
Oh, we can do. I haven't really got any plans, to be fair. They're usually just like Coke or Pepsi and that kind of thing, aren't they?
Shall we skip
cool.
this or that? Because
Better
we've already played a game. Shall we skip this or that and just ask like the last question, like what the 16-year-old self?
Okay, yeah, all right, yeah, that's
so,
cool.
Shelley, what would you say to a 16-year-old self just starting out?
In life or music, I suppose.
To myself or to any
so
16-year-olds?
you're talking to yourself as a 16-year-old.
Oh, that's funny.
This seems like it's right up your street, you know. But, you're talking to yourself, and what would you maybe do differently to get you to where you are now? Or I know obviously hindsight's a wonderful thing, but it would be nice to go back and chat to your younger self, I suppose. So,
Okay, what I would say is learn how to practice. Learn how to practice and do that every single day. Because I only really came up with a good like practice regime. This is for violin. During COVID, during lockdown, because I was like stuck inside, bored shitless, and I was like, I'm going to use this time to my advantage. And I just like several hours every day, I was like really methodical about what I needed to work on, like scales and arpeggios to like warm up, and then certain pieces, and I would break everything down and be like, okay, I need to run this bit like 10 times, or this whole song like 10 times every day. And like my level just like went from that, and I wish that I'd known that earlier, like how to practice.
have you continued with that routine then?
Yeah, I've got a bit more lax with it, probably just from like complacency or whatever. But I still really try to. I know now that it's the best way to practice is just to just be as methodical as possible and just like write out what you need to work on, and just like do, even if you're doing like 5-10 minutes on it every day, like the most important thing is doing it every day, rather than like I used to just practice in like, you know, several hour long chunks, but like not consistently, and just doing a small amount every day will just like improve your level just so much quicker. I
think the planning one's massive, because I'm by no means an incredible guitarist, but sometimes I pick the guitar up and I'm like, what do I do today? Like, so like you say, plan out what your goals are and stuff is massive, really, because you do get, so I'd sometimes get stuck with what I want to do next and that kind of thing. So
definitely.
Well, I'm always noodling around with scales and stuff like that. I think most of my practice is noodling. So I'll do it because I teach instrumental vocal lessons throughout the week. I'll just mess about on something, and I might do, when I'm actually at home, all I'll do is I'll stick on a blues backing track and just try improvising in a particular key, just so I'm not doing something the same key. But that 10 minutes or that 5-10 minutes around that backing track, like you get to a gig and all of a sudden you've got yourself in a rut, you've missed part of the solo. Now you've got to make it up to get yourself back on track.
Absolutely.
I know I've got a couple of licks now that I know I've got in my locker. It's mad.
Moving forward, we're going to introduce your song soon. Bands, especially in Manchester where you are now, or it can be anywhere to be fair, but we are sort of trying to be a local music podcast. Up and coming artists or artists that are sort of unsigned, who would you recommend? It could be band, it could be solo, that we maybe haven't heard before and would be worth listening to.
Apart from myself and my band.
Yeah, of course,
I mean, I would definitely recommend checking out Ask My Bull, which is a weird name, Ask My Bull.
Ask My Bull.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
It's just stupid. But they're like the most kind of like fun party music you'll ever see in your life. They're just like, there's no vocals, it's all just like drums, guitar, bass and 2 saxophones, and they just play this like incredible, just like fun dancey music. And I not like dance music, but just, I think they call it like troll jazz.
Right.
Which doesn't really help.
Like a little bit like jazz fusion sort of stuff. Like
Maybe.
It kind of crosses with funk a little bit, is it? Sort
Maybe,
of that
but
sort
it's
of stuff?
more upbeat than that.
Right.
That makes me think of like mid-tempo, and it's definitely a lot more like, and just their gigs are always just like the most fun ever. Just like you just run out of breath from dancing and stuff. So like I would definitely recommend them. Who else? My mind's gone blank now.
All right, well we'll move on slightly.
Okay.
Music venue you would recommend the most, probably in Manchester, where you think they sort of celebrate, especially for your original music, and they, you know, they're very accommodating. It's a great venue to go to. What would you recommend as a good venue?
Okay. So venue I would recommend. I've got a few. One is the Spinning Top, which is in Stockport.
Yeah.
It's run by a guy called Mike Swan, who is just wonderful, and they put on gigs like several nights a week. My band play there quite a lot, just because it's always just such a lovely atmosphere. Mike is just a legend. He's one of these people that is just keeping like live music alive, basically. I would say the same thing about the Golden Lion in Todmorden and about Number 39 in Darwin.
Yeah.
Very similar kind of thing, I think. Just like the I don't know if they're like Mike is, I think, the landlord of the Spinning Top, but I don't know about like what the job title is of like the guys at the Golden Lion and Number 39, but they are just like so enthusiastic about getting like new bands on, and
I think they've just, they've just opened up an original music venue in Darwin, or reopened it, called, is it Songbird or Sunbird Record or something like that. They've opened it up, and it's meant to be exclusively for live music, for original music, so it might be worth checking that out actually.
What's it called, sorry?
It's either called Songbird or Sunbird. I think it's Sunbird.
That does ring a bell.
Sunbird,
actually.
I want to say Records, but I feel something like
Is
that.
that around
Sunbird.
here?
It's in Darwin.
Oh,
It's
in
just
Darwin.
opened up. That's why I mentioned it, because of Number 39. So
Darwin's
have a look at
pretty
that.
good for
Yeah, it's quite cool, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, right. We're going to let you introduce your song for us.
Okay.
So You take the stage as the music comes in.
Okay. Hi everyone. This is a song from my debut EP called False Spring, and it is about meeting the right person at the wrong time, because we've all been there, right? Enjoy.
There was something in the air that I couldn't quite place, till you took my hand and the sparks flew. I remembered magic like this from some forgotten place, buried deep in my heart, where the wildflowers grow, where frost-covered memories stand in a world. Hello, hello. Do you know, do you know, do you know? I think we met before, once a lifetime ago. Hello, hello. Do you know, do you know, do you know? I think we met before, once a lifetime ago. Expanded, leaving nothing but an ache for you within. I asked my crows about you, but got no straight answers. My cards and my runes told me that we aren't kin. From the furnaces of stars, from Long Beach